we're live. Live on the Metal Voice, a special edition Judas Priest North American Tour edition.
Yeah.
All the guys are here from the show in Montreal, Canada. But we're not only going to talk about that, we're going
We
to
missed
talk
a few
about.
here.
I'm sorry?
There was quite a few of us.
Yes, there was, to say the least.
Orlando was there. Who
Oh,
else?
Mihai, I saw Mihai.
Sylvain.
I was there with my cousin.
Everybody I went to high school with. Everyone I went to high school or grew up with since the show was in Laval.
There was a lot of people. I didn't get a chance to say hi to everybody, but next time,
Everybody I served time with was there.
There you go. All right. On March the 4th, actually, I go back a step. On September 2021, Judas Priest was supposed to go on a North American tour with Sabaton. But wait a second, hold on. Richie Faulkner, has this acute cardiac erratic problem, and 12 dates got canceled or something like that. So they had to reschedule it and go on tour with the Queensryche, which is a great package that we all went to see, right? But hang on. But hang on. Rob Halford gets sick close to the end or close to the Canadian tour dates. So things did turn out phenomenal. So let's just talk about it. Let's just talk about this North American tour with Queensryche. And if anybody wants to comment on what they saw with Sabaton, go right ahead. And if anybody wants to talk about their city or leave a comment on what they saw and what they thought of the show, go right ahead. Alan Dixon, give us the high level. Judas Priest. Well, actually, let's start off with Queensryche since they opened.
You sure? You're good now?
I'm good now.
That's your final question?
Queensryche,
I don't know where to start.
I wasn't sitting with you guys. I was in a different section, but everybody around me were singing the songs to Queensryche. It was a great set. Taryn and I spoke about it before even walking into the show, looking forward to all the songs they were singing. I was there with Stiff Rod. He turned to me and go, "Are they going to do the whole Warning?" Because there's like one song after another for the Warning. Todd, the balls of the guy to open every show with Queen of the Reich. Just to show you what he's able to do vocally. And again, they stuck to pretty much a great set list. I think they had one of the newer songs only from Todd era. The rest were from previous albums. And
did they, Alan? I don't think they played one.
There was
Todd
nothing.
era. They
nothing
did at the
from
beginning.
The Todd era.
Yeah. I think they kind of started like that on the tour, but then they didn't play one in Todd's era.
Oh.
Yeah. All right, Stefan, what did you think of the opening act? I know what you told me in my ear. You told me in my ear. I know. Remember, you were sitting next to you, and you told me in your ear.
I will say what I told Jimmy. I think I'll take back everything I said about the post Todd LaTorre period. I used to think that Jeff Tate's was Queensryche, and it couldn't work without a singer, no matter how good Todd LaTorre was. But then I see him on stage, and on the first notes of Queen of the Reich, I said, okay, he is not an amateur. He is not a stand-in. This guy can sing. And the highest notes from the highest song from the first EP, I said, okay, I'm getting chills down my spine here. He is touching me. And immediately I could tell the difference between this guy and Jeff Tate's. Jeff Tate's was a great technical singer, but let's face it, he didn't have the greatest stage presence. He could not command an audience, and he could not get people the same way. And Todd LaTorre has the voice, has the charisma, and has the stage presence to go that extra mile in concert. And that was the first thing that struck my mind. Says, oh my God, he compensates for, and you're gonna find it's terrible, but as you know, Queensryche made it big as an album seller, but they were never a legendary live band. Todd Latour convinced me that they could have gone much bigger had Jeff Tate been a better frontman.
Those
And
are
now
pretty
they
big
have
words. Those are, ooh,
When you
geez,
say
those
better
are great.
frontman, are you talking the later years or right from the beginning?
Well, I find, I don't really care for Queensryche later year material. I'm an originalist, as Americans would say, and I I just find that Jeff Tate was not the front man I thought he was when I saw Todd
Yeah, I know what you're
Latour.
saying. I know what you're saying.
You
I know
know,
what you're saying.
and I've seen Jeff Tate with Queensryche very often. The very first show in Montreal in 1983, opening for Twisted Sister, and I've seen them over and over, and with opening for Motley Crue in 1989. This was my first show since 1989, seeing Queensryche, and I was left speechless. This was an incredible, very satisfying performance, and I think they've come a long way. They impress me, and this singer truly is phenomenal.
And I can tell you guys with 100% confidence, those are not tracked vocals. He is doing those vocals at that range, in that intensity, and that's the real deal. Parent?
Well, first, I mean, look, I'm an early adopter to Queensryche, right? I've been a fan since the EP and Warning. I first saw them in '86, opening for Ozzy for Rage for Order, which was their second show here in Montreal. The '83 show, I would have been 12 years old, and 12-year-old me was not going to be able to get into an 18-plus venue when they played the Spectrum. So, and I did a quick tabulation. I've seen them 9 times. So I saw them 3 times with Jeff Tate when Jeff Tate was Jeff Tate. I saw them 3 times on the Q2K tour, on the Tribe tour, and on the Live Evolution tour when they weren't kind of previously what they were. Saw them on Mindcrime 2 here in Montreal. And this is the second time I saw them with Todd. So I knew what I was getting, but I saw them when Todd first joined the band. And I guess the first thing I'll say is, Todd was always good. But now that he's been in the band, he's the new guy, but he's been in the band like almost a decade, right? Or 8 years, whatever it might be. So they've really gelled as a unit. Todd's really gotten comfortable with the songs, and not just a few of the songs, like the entire catalog. And he's hitting a home run every night. And, I know a lot of people who, they're not the avid fans we are. They know the name Queensryche. They know the hits. They know the songs they like. They kind of know that Jeff Tate's not there anymore, but they don't know anything about Todd. And I got so many texts and people saying to me, wow, that new Queensryche singer, he really delivered. So similar to Steph's reaction. One thing I really loved is they got an hour, which is not a typical opening act set. So they had an hour.
56 minutes.
56 minutes. But look, a lot of opening acts, depending on your stature. 35 minutes, 45 minutes. If you're big, maybe you get 50. So to get almost an hour, 12 songs, almost full PA, it was kind of a nod of the hats to how important Queensryche is in the world of metal, I thought. And you guys alluded to the set list a little bit. Yeah, it would have been good, I think, for them to play 1 or 2 new songs, but I think they're smart enough to recognize it's not their audience. They're opening for Judas Priest, they're opening for an older audience, and the best way to get a response is to play songs that people are more or less familiar with. And for me, a longtime fan, we got an EP song, we got a bunch of Warning songs, and deeper cuts from the Warning. We got a couple of deeper cuts from Rage for Order. We got, the important Mindcrime tunes, which you want to hear. We got some Empire. So I think if you're a longtime fan of the band, you really got what you wanted. You got like almost a headline set. You got a pretty diverse set list that was really well executed. So, if you think back to all the concerts you go to and say, hey, what are some of the best opening acts I've ever seen? You got to put this up there as saying they are one of the best opening acts that you've seen. Because, with all due respect to Sabaton, I'm glad they're coming back and they're actually going to be headlining the same building, a scaled down version. But I'm glad we got Queensryche. and it really made the night like a full night for me. Maiden always brings kind of Raven Age or Lauren Harris, or it feels like that's what we get these days. But I'm really glad that Priest brought, a really grade A opening act with them.
Guy and Perrin, I just want to say that this is probably the best package. Queensryche, Judas Priest. I usually can't stand the opening act. So this was, to me, my favorite band. I actually like Queensryche better than Judas Priest. I know everybody's going to hate my guts for this. I was a bigger Queensryche fan back in the day, much more so than Judas Priest. I know people aren't going to like that because I'm more in the prog metal kind of thing. And Jeff Tate's great. I've seen Jeff Tate live. He's a great singer, but I think Todd brings it, to Stefan's point, to another level. How do you sing The Whisper? I'm not even sure if Jeff Tate sang it that high for that long. Yeah. You know what singers do? There's these high notes, and when they do, they compensate. They use like a lower note when they're singing in their melody. And he didn't. He hit all the notes. Every scream was there. Great pitch from what I can hear. And the band was tight, super tight. It was just phenomenal experience.
But it's no stress, right? Neither one of them are promoting an album, so it could be, like Perrin said, a greatest hits collection. And they could feel to do whatever they wanted. They did do some deeper tracks, both bands. But I've never ever had a problem with Jeff Tate as a frontman. I think I've always enjoyed his performances and his rapport with the audience. I've always thought he'd done a good job, even in recent years.
No, I agree with you that too. But I'm just saying that I was always a Queensryche fan before a Judas Priest fan. Not to say I didn't like the band. I just always liked them more. So to me, this is like the opening band, my favorite band, opening for another band I love. It's the best package. It's the greatest package you could ever have.
And let me just say, a lot of people do Stefan said he's a purist, right? A lot of people do no DeGarmo, no Queensryche, no Tate, no Queensryche. Oh, Jimmy, you were posting a couple things from the show, and within 5 or 6 comments, like always, on the Metal Voice thread, someone was saying, sorry, that's not Queensryche.
If it ain't Jeff Tate, it ain't Queensryche.
And people need to understand, the 28-year-old Jeff Tate doesn't exist anymore. So your choices right now are the Todd LaTorre in his early 40s or Jeff Tate around 60. And at this point in their lives, the best singer for Queensryche, even though it's not the Queensryche you grew up on, is Todd. And he hits a home run. And let's also say he's a great person. And not just because we've kind of chatted with him. He's so good with fans. He interacts with fans on social media. He'll take the hits and the criticism. He'll fight back.
He'll take a picture with Orlando outside at 12 o'clock at night.
Yeah. So Todd's doing a lot of work to kind of bring the band to the people a little bit also. So, full marks. Honestly, 10, you can't get better as an opening act. 10 on 10 as an opening act.
Yeah, I agree.
The only change I would have made, they couldn't play everything, but their biggest hit ever commercial was, let's face it, Silent Lucidity. And it's very hard to play a power ballad like this, especially when you're an opening act. But I would have played it had I been in the band. I would have played it because it's such a signature, recognizable hit that I think I would have.
I think it's to Perrin's point that you have 1 hour. This is not your headlining show, so you just want to just hit everybody hard, right? And do so that full on. You know what I mean? But I get what you're saying, Stefan. I like that song too. I'm a softie like you. Yeah, I'm a softie.
Not that I like that song. It's not my favorite, but it would have been the song. Everybody.
You know what I forgot to mention? Tonight is the last show in Hamilton, Ontario. If you have not bought your tickets, go out, buy your tickets, go see the show. This is the last show on the Queensryche.
You got an hour and 45 minutes.
That's right. It's not too late. I don't know where they're playing in Hamilton, where the Bulldogs play, right, Alan? I think that's what the center's called.
Well,
somewhere in Hamilton.
It's the former Cops Coliseum, so it's it has a corporate name now. I don't know what the corporate name is.
Okay.
But it's,
we're not mentioning corporate names on this show.
yeah, unless they pay us without mentioning them. So
listen,
get
me
the
and
merch, buy the merch.
Alan, I'm gonna just sort of toss this out there. We had lunch. At the Souvlaki bar, right? And I have a picture here. I'm gonna show everybody this picture. I'm gonna find it here. How down to earth these guys are. Okay, let me find it.
That was before the show?
Before the show, we had souvlaki. Had to have souvlaki because Todd's wife is Greek. And
we're in Laval, so I mean.
In Laval, we had souvlaki at the souvlaki with Michael Wilton, the whip, and Todd Latore. And let me tell you guys, they were so nice, so down to earth, and so kind. I know I'm blowing a lot of hot air here, but they were so... Alan, maybe you want to just say something.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, of course, you have Todd, a guest on the show lots of time. We always joke around with him. It's nice to finally meet him. And then, Michael came along as a bonus, and just a super, pretty reserved, pretty quiet kind of guy, but easy to talk to and interested in different subjects. And, geez, it was just a pleasure to get to have lunch with both of them.
Yeah. And because we did a promo, right? We wanted to push the tour, so that's what we were doing it for. And it's so nice that they did that. All right. Last question on Queensryche, and we'll move to Judas Priest. And somebody is asking, can they jump on? Can they jump on and do a call with us? Maybe. I don't know. Let's see if we got time. Get your tickets for Ontario. Now, would you have liked to hear, Alan, an original on the Todd era?
Sorry. I mean, there was one song I just couldn't place. I thought that was from the Todd era.
But now that we've told you,
I think it goes back to what you guys were saying earlier. With only 56 minutes, and we're joking because that's what Michael said. We got 56 minutes. Show up there at 7:30 on the dot, and we looked at our watch when they were finished, and it was 56 minutes to the second. So I think that's, they had to stick with that kind of great set list. And like I said, everybody around us, they were singing all the words, and it was the top songs as far as I'm concerned.
Perrin, would you have liked to hear at least one track?
Yeah, I think as much as I love all the old songs, I think they should have played maybe a song from their last album, The Verdict. Because, I mean, even though they're not supporting it anymore and there's a new album coming in some point this year, I think it lends credibility to the Todd era of the band. And I think they were giving us so many treats in the set list that if you kind of opened with Queen of the Reich, did Warning, and then did a new song, and then got back to the classics, people wouldn't have known it, but I don't think they would have minded it. And maybe it would have created some awareness around what the band is doing now. Like some people might have been asking, what is that? What album it's on? So if I were them, I would have done one newer song. And as a supporter of this era of the band, I wish they would have.
Okay.
But Stefan, I don't know what I would have cut. I don't know what I would have cut.
Stefan, would you like to hear at least one song? Or maybe it just wasn't the time and wasn't the right place?
Wasn't the right place. People were there to see Judas Priest. And don't forget, tickets went on sale way before Queensryche was announced on the bill. So given that they had to play in front of a Judas Priest audience,
yeah,
even though they're within the same metal family, they didn't have much of a choice but to play safe with a safe set list. So I can certainly understand why they didn't take a chance playing newer material that fewer people would have known.
Alan, do you think you're in the orchestra, which is like the ground, do you think people were there just loved Queensryche just as much as they liked Judas Priest? Like, I know people are on their feet there too. They're standing.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, from what I witnessed, some of the younger fans, maybe less, but overall, I think it was a perfect double bill, like you said, because from the reaction that I witnessed, everybody was equally in tune with Queensryche as they were with Judas Priest. So,
all right. Anything else anybody want to add as we move to Judas Priest?
We can
Well,
move to Judas
right.
Priest.
I was with. Well, I just want to say I was with Stiff Rod, and he had never seen Todd live before, playing with Queensryche, and he's like, he just looked at me throughout the whole set, like, wow, you know, listen to that tone, listen to him hit those notes, and he was quite in awe, and he was quite impressed that you know, for somebody that's watching it for the first time, it's very impressive. In fact.
I would say that because Queensryche was opening, they got a lot more fans. They sort of attracted a lot of fans that they didn't have before. And they also brought in a lot of fans too, right? That maybe Judas Priest didn't have before. That's the mood I was getting, because there were some fanatics, man. Because I was looking down at you guys, Alan, in that area, and they're just pumping their fists and standing and just singing the songs. Take Hold of the Flame, everybody was singing it. You could hear them sing along with the words, you know?
Well, look at the merch too. Like, I always, when I go to shows, I like to see who's buying what merch. And Queensryche had only 2 shirt selections. You're wearing one, I'm wearing one.
But,
They sold a lot of merch. I saw lots of Queensryche shirts, and also beyond these, I saw a lot of old Queensryche shirts at the show. So they definitely kind of had an audience there. But I think they also won some people who maybe they had lost, and they won them back.
that's a good point there. You know, only in a live, and this is to Alan, when he first saw Todd, he goes, Jimmy, I can't believe it, man. He won him over. Seeing him live opening for the Scorpions. Remember that, Alan? You just, once you see him live, the band live, not only Todd, but the whole band live, they really give justice to the legacy of the band, plus they're this sort of a continuation of the band, and it's legit.
Well, you know,
Jimmy, let me say,
Fair.
because we keep mentioning Todd and Whip.
Yeah.
But, you know, Mike Stone is in the band now as a second guitar player. And Mike is a very kind of laid back kind of presence, but he's so good. And it's not easy. He's in the DeGarmo role, and Kelly Gray was in the band for a while, and Parker Lundgren was in the band for a while, and Mike Stone's been in and out. But he's such a great musician, laid back guy, and he does such an amazing job. And Casey Grillo, this is his first tour with them on drums, filling Scott Rockenfield's shoes, which is not easy. And I think he's a longtime acquaintance and partner of Todd's. And Casey Grillo does an amazing job as well. So,
Yes.
you know, it's not just the Todd show. You know, it's not just the Todd show. They've become a really cohesive unit.
Yeah.
And you know, Eddie Jackson and backing vocals, and the overall sound with Queensryche was great. The other thing you brought up, Jim, I think with the demographic that was there, you guys take it from your point of view. But if Sabaton had opened, it would have been I would think that they would have attracted a younger crowd. And I saw guys our age. The crowd were more or less our age. Yes, there was some younger people there, obviously. But I think overall, it was an older crowd that was there, which was a win-win, because like everybody's agreeing here, Queensryche was a great band back in the day, and we all wanted to see them again. So they're still a great band. But I think if Sabaton was there, the older crowd might not have known as much about that band as they did Queensryche. So I think it worked out in Priest's favor this time around.
Jackie Long says the best. Todd brought life back to the band, and when you think about it, he's had 3 albums going on 4, and it's Todd bringing the energy to the other players and giving them that sort. It's a dynamic that it feeds back and forth with Michael Wilton, right, and just everybody in the band. It's that whole energy. It just sparks something there, you know. And you think of the last 5 albums with Jeff Tate, you know, Alan, we've done the reviews. I mean, you know, they weren't the greatest. And I know Stefan stopped listening to the band after 1984 or something, 85.
No, I stopped after 1990. I sort of, look, I have a hard time. You know, I'm an old geezer in the sense that music that I listened to from 1980 to 1990 is so identified with moods, with life, with certain life events. And after that, life changes, and it becomes a bit harder for me anyway, to sort of try to duplicate the feeling I got out of this music in the 80s and transfer it to, 2022. But bands who do it right, they have me standing up on my seat. They have me buying their records still. Queensryche, my opinion, they've run out of ideas, and nothing they do can match what they did in the earlier days. In concert, I'm willing to take new tracks, but I have a harder time assimilating. And that, I think that's why I was really looking forward to see Sabaton opening. And it's, I was supposed, as you know, I was supposed to go with my daughter, who's really into Sabaton. And they're the younger generation. They want to hear Sabaton, and Judas Priest was sort of like, oh, let's see what dad rock is all about. With Queensryche, you had two dad rock bands. With Sabaton, you would have had a millennial band and a dad rock band, and that would have worked fine. But either way, I was extremely happy. I have my tickets for Sabaton this fall anyway, so it doesn't matter. I'm still going to go see Sabaton. But the original goal of this bill was to get two generation of music metal fans, and I think had Sabaton remained on the lineup, that show could have been sold out.
But you got to say this, Stefan, and I could show you pictures of the crowd with Judas Priest and Queensryche. And Perrin, tell me if this is true or not. This was like their biggest gig or the biggest place they played. It was almost sold out. And I'll show the pictures. I'll show a picture here to prove it to everybody. I would say what, 7,000, 8,000?
Yeah, they did. According to the Journal de Quebec, they did 6,000 in Quebec City the night before, and they probably had about 6,000 or 7,000 in Laval. So, and just for reference, the American shows are mostly playing theaters. Like they played the Fox Theater in Oakland in the Bay Area, where I used to live, and that place holds 2,800. So they sold it out 2,800. Yeah. But in a lot of U.S. cities, they were playing theaters. They were selling out the theaters, but it's only in Canada, Halifax, Quebec City, Montreal, and Hamilton today, where they're playing arenas. And okay, yes, it's a scaled down arena, but 6,000 or 7,000 in an arena is still better than 2,800 in a theater. So they did some pretty big numbers here compared to the rest.
That's what I'm saying, and that's my point. Like maybe Sabaton couldn't have done that. I don't know. Anyways.
Well,
it is what it is.
If we're going to bring up that subject, I just want to say it leads us into the Judas Priest portion of the concert.
There you go.
I caught them the last two Redeemer of Souls and Epitaph, and the attendance. This was at the larger venue here in town, and the attendance was slipping. So I'm glad management finally woke up and booked them into a place that was more convenient to the type of crowd they're drawing these days. Yes, it's great that it's still better than theaters, but they're on their downward slope here. They're not playing the larger venues they did in the 80s or as recently as in the last 10 years. So that leads us into the Judas Priest portion of the concert. So I'm anxious to hear what you guys have to say.
All right, Stefan, what do you think? It's been a while since you saw Judas Priest. I'm putting up some pictures as we speak. So what'd you think?
I loved it. And it was a very important show for me because the last time Priest came to town, they were on the same bill as Deep Purple. And even though it was a co-headline tour where Priest had almost as much time as Deep Purple, let's face it, it was a Deep Purple evening, and Deep Purple these days, well, they sound kind of soft. So we all remember that show where Priest literally took the show. They won the audience. After that, people were just sitting down. And it was the same thing last night. As soon as Rob Alford shows himself on stage, oh my God, he's the metal god. For me, is like, even more important in metal than Bruce Dickinson. He's it. For me, he's like, my God, heavy metal started and ends with Judas Priest. And even though I still feel kind of sad not seeing Glenn and KK, I still see this incredible band, of Ian Hill, of Rob Alford, who just give it their absolute best. And I look, I loved every minute of it. I cannot think of a single moment during the show when I went, okay, let's go for a piss. I did not have a single piss song. My only criticism is I think I would have liked to be on the floor with Alan.
Oh, next time.
Yeah, because
I could have arranged that. Just tell me next time, guys. It's like,
Do the old switcheroo with Stiff Rod.
no, it's because
You guys know you don't know Stiff Rod. Perrin met Stiff Rod. You didn't meet Stiff Rod.
For me, the sound needs to be good, and I could tell the sound was good, but where we were, let's face it, we had a column of speakers hiding the backdrop, and the sound wasn't too good. Am I correct to say, Alan, that the sound was better on the floor?
I don't know what you were comparing. I have no reference to compare what you were hearing, but it took them a while to get the sound correct, in my opinion.
Yes.
The first two songs sounded, I don't know if it was the Flying V's also, but it sounded tinny, it sounded thin compared to Queensryche.
yeah.
It took a few songs to get the sound right, and which is okay because the first two songs are not necessarily my favorite, but I was glad to, from You Got Another Thing Coming to the end, my mind was blown. And it's really funny because when we got to Freewheel Burning, this is the spot where the tour started off with Exciter. For me, Exciter was the greatest song in the world because my very first Priest album was Priest in the East. And it says, no, I love that song too much. But then when I saw YouTube
Unleashed in the East.
Yeah. Well, they called it Priest in the East elsewhere in the world, and I have the import. Okay. And so when I heard on YouTube a few months ago, Exciter sung Nowadays, I said, oh shit, this sucks. You can't do it. And then I'm listening to Freewheel Burning. Yes, that takes me back. That he's doing it as he should. And that was a great song. And for me, even songs I used to not care much about, like Turbo Lover, I actually got into it.
Oh, here we go with Alan. Alan, he can't stand Turbo Lover.
I love it, man.
I love it too. I love it too.
But for me, I mean, just there was not a dull moment. Halford was looking and feeling a lot younger than his age.
His voice was spot on, Stefan. His voice. Once he started kicking into gear, and he was hitting these notes, and I still having trouble hearing on this ear right here because that big speaker was right there, right? He was hitting the mark. He was on fire. This guy has a cold? Or he had a cold? What? No, man. And you could tell he's not using tracks either. You could just, because there's too much grittiness in his voice. It's not polished.
Yeah.
He was better on this tour or this show than he was for me during Angel of Retribution. I just think he was kind of sleeping during that tour, but this one, he was spot on, man. He was spot on. And I like Turbo Lover.
But it was more than that, I think. It was, when they got into those list of non-stop classics, I mean, Rock-a-Rolla.
Oh, I loved it. I loved
highlight.
it.
That was a highlight for me.
I loved it.
A highlight. And then Victim of Changes.
Well, that's a standard.
You can't. This
but
is
he killed
one of their
it.
best. It's one of their best songs. I mean,
Desert Plains. Desert Plains for me was.
Well, K-Man's saying they're using backing tracks. Okay, let's define what backing tracks are.
They're effects. They're not backing tracks.
Exactly. So when you have like a synthesizer or a keyboard in the background, or maybe you have some multiple vocal layers or harmonies, yes. But the main vocals are Rob's. I was watching, I was listening to him. It didn't sound, altered, or he wasn't lip syncing. What do I know? But it didn't sound that way.
Yeah, they're effects. They're not tracks.
Yeah.
Like semantics, maybe.
Yeah,
but what were the first two songs, Perrin? What was the first three songs? Because to me, that was a kind of like Queensryche, doing great. And then Priest comes on. It was kind of like a little bit of a letdown to Alan's point. Maybe the mix wasn't there. But then when they started kicking into gear, it was just amazing.
Okay, well, first, so I'll address the sound thing first. So first, like I said, in the States, most of the shows are in theaters. So their sound man is used to theaters, which are typically acoustically really made for music, and they're smaller houses, right? This is only their second or third show in an arena this tour, and even when you're sound checking in an empty arena versus in an arena full of people is different. So it's normal that it's going to take a couple of songs to kind of get the sound where they want it. It was a very, very loudly played show on purpose. There's no doubt about it. So you're also dealing with like sheer volume as well. So I didn't have much of a problem with the sound. But you did allude to the first couple of songs, Jimmy. So I would say, first of all, I thought the set list was brilliant because when you have a 50-year career, it's really not easy to make everybody happy. And, 70s Priest is an animal, and 80s Priest is an animal, and, 90s and newer Priest is another animal. So they were able to do a lot of that. But look, opening with One Shot of Glory, a deep track from Painkiller, is not what I would have done. Now, I've seen Priest 12 times. I appreciate them doing a song that I've never seen live before. Hence, I really appreciated Rockarola, because in the 12 times I've seen Priest, they never played Rockarola. They never played One Shot of Glory either, but opening with a song that people generally don't know, except the diehard of all diehards.
That was my problem, Perrin.
And it's like, problem. You really want, like Queensryche opened with Queen of the Reich, and even if you're only vaguely familiar with Queensryche, you were kind of up and you were excited. But for Priest to open with One Shot of Glory, where you can kind of see a couple people mouthing to their friend next to them, what song is that? Like, I don't think it's the best thing. And look, and I love the Firepower album. So the second song was Lightning Strike from Firepower, which is a good song, but I think there's better songs on Firepower. And I don't know if I would have just done the combination of opening with lesser known song, last album, new song. I might have, it's your last tour most likely, it's your 50th anniversary tour. I appreciated having Electric Eye as the first encore. Maybe I would have opened with that. If they wanted to open with something rare, open with Screaming for Vengeance. I don't know, like just do, open with, Rapid Fire or something. I don't know, like just so do something that's a little more familiar and a little more punchy. So I would say if there was a downside of the night, I thought as novel an idea as it sounds, to open with One Shot of Glory and then go into Lightning Strikes, I don't think that was a good idea. But then after that...
But Perrin, what do you think about... Okay, so K-Man's saying, Jimmy, you definitely need to go back and listen to some of Priest in 2004, 2005 gigs. Okay, what'd you think about the vocals?
Look, Rob is 70 years old, and again, a show was canceled in Boston 5 days prior because he had a very bad cold. And again, we kind of know exactly what the issue was. He had a very bad cold. So, I had said to Jimmy privately, I bet you they cut the set list short in Halifax and Quebec City to preserve his voice. They didn't, and neither did they in Montreal. 19-song set. His voice was really strong. I thought they might protect his voice a little bit and not play Victim of Changes, and they did it. And, look, he was high, he was low, he had those piercing screams. Yes, in Victim of Changes and other songs, like the extension of the note changes is done with an effect, but he's still hitting a pretty high note the first time, and they're extending it for effect, but he's singing. I gotta
tell you, Perrin, if you listen very carefully to singers, they choose different notes when they're singing because they don't want to blow their voice out. Yeah. He was going for the notes. He was going for the big notes and Victim of Change. He right in that middle part, he went for it. Painkiller. He's just going, this is the Painkiller, and he keeps going higher and higher. He didn't go for the lower notes. He went right up there.
No, he didn't cheat. There's no look. He didn't cheat.
Cheating. I wouldn't even call it cheating. I would say he went for it. That's all.
But I just want to underline everyone because I started on a negative about the set list. The set list was great. Rockarola was a fantastic ad. I hadn't heard Green Manalishi and Diamonds and Rust in a while, and we heard those songs. And again, I appreciate that they don't shun the Turbo Ram It Down era. I like hearing Turbo Lover. I'm perfectly fine with that.
Because you're a
and
Turbo
even
lover.
Playing Blood Red Skies from Ram It Down. Blood Red Skies is a great song, and I'm
Alan's
really
favorite song, by the way, is Turbo Lover. Alan's never liked the song. Alan, please.
We know there's
why.
two camps, right? Turbo is a love it or hate it album. It's as simple as that. And it's a love it or hate it track.
I like the song.
I think it's an important part of their history, and I'm glad they still play the song.
Okay, Sylvain was sitting next to us, says, you're right, Jimmy, of course. Rob's voice and stage presence was better on this tour than in the 2008 Angel tour, Angel Retribution. I'm telling you, he walked like Frankenstein with a cane. You know, he just looked tired. There's something, I think the audience was going, they gave him that energy. They're just going wild. Orlando was up there. I don't know if security took him away at one point or somebody was taken away. It was just
we got him back. We saw him at the end of the show.
What would you have changed? Anyone? What would you have changed?
Well, I can give my impression of the concert, Jimmy, if you like.
I thought you started. Okay, go ahead. Go.
So I agree with Perrin. I love that song, but was it the opener? No. The second one, they lost me because Firepower, I'm not that familiar. But then I look over and here's Orlando singing word for word. So I said, maybe it's a good choice to add this as the second song. He had another thing coming. It was a bit karaoke for me. And then they started kicking it. Then I think that's when they hit their stride after the third song. Now, I love Under Blood Red Skies. I love, Turbo Lover. We heard that synth guitar intro, and Stiff Rod and I sat down. And unfortunately, it's better live than it is on record, I admit, but it's just not our thing. And, but we weren't surprised by too many of the choices, right? And we even looked at each other and at one point said, well, it's going to be Hellbent for Leather next. And sure enough, you heard the motorcycle start. So, that's what we've seen Priest a lot of times. And Rob, he's an entertainer and he hit all the notes. We're not going to say anything. Richie did his best. And then, there's a one point of the song, I'm looking over and Andy Sneap, I can barely hear his guitar. He's playing rhythm tracks. Richie's playing all the leads. And for where I was standing, it was hard to hear that rhythm track playing. But to go back to the sound, as soon as they came on, from my knees down to the floor were vibrating because of the bass. I was standing on the floor 6 rows from the stage, and all night long, from my knees down to my ankles, you can feel a vibration from all the low-end notes coming from the bass.
Yeah. My only, it's not a criticism at all. That's your question. I was under the impression that Glenn was still coming to play rhythm for the final song.
I was gonna say that. What Glenn hasn't shown up. He wasn't in Halifax. I think his last appearance was like 7 shows ago, right? He did a few at the start of the tour. I would have liked him to come out, but his health is what his health is, right?
He flies in and out, and he does clusters of shows. Actually, last time in Montreal, we were lucky. He made an appearance last time in Montreal on the Deep Purple tour. Yeah. I mean, I think from what I hear, it goes of how he's feeling, and who knows if he's having treatments and stuff like that, and maybe there's a schedule there. So some clusters of shows he does, some he doesn't. So it sounds like he did not come to Canada.
I think Richie Faulkner, he was just incredible. He carried the band so much, and he was just, what a great showman, what a great musician, what a great guitarist. He sort of made up for KK not being there and Glenn not being there. Of course, I would have loved them if they were there. Don't get me wrong, but he really is a star. He's great.
It almost feels like they're holding him back. That's the impression I got. This guy's got so much talent and he's so good. I'm watching him, and you can just see where he was doing little leads that normally weren't there, and he's making it his own, but you can see the potential of this guy, and he's kind of like boxed in, right? Like, these are classic songs. You can't reimagine it. Not that Judas Priest ever would. But you can see the potential of this guy, and it's almost as if he's limiting himself to stay with
Richie Brought new energy to Priest.
He did.
Just the same way Todd brought new energy to Queensryche. I think
absolutely.
That's kind of like it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I'm comparing Priest to, Defenders of the Faith tour, with KK and Glenn. You can see the energy level. Even Rob's doing his best. He's all over the stage. He's nonstop. He's walking back and forth. But I see the younger generations. They're going insane. There's a whole bunch of 17 to 23-year-olds that are going insane watching Priest. And I was going to say, if you like that, you should have seen them 20 or 30 years ago, back in the 80s. You would have blown your mind. It's a different beast. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that I didn't enjoy it. The songs, they threw in a few surprises. We were joking, and we know of the set list before we even walk in what songs are going to play. And then they started out with two that, like Farron said, we would never imagine they would ever do. But there were a lot of similarities to the Epitaph tour and also the Redeemer Souls tour. So I think with their catalog, I'm kind of hypocritical here. I wanted them to do new songs, and then they did new songs, and I'm questioning why they did those new songs. So it was a bit of confusing for me.
All right. Would they? Here's the big question for everybody who's ever seen them now, and the people in Ontario and Hamilton are going to see them. Could they have pulled this off with 4?
Pull what off before?
Pulled what off?
Could they pull this show off with 4 without Sneap? Because that's
Oh,
the
with
whole.
4. Okay, I heard
Sorry, with 4
before.
members. Sorry, guys. I'm tired. It's been a long day. Could they pull this show off with 4 as they originally intended to? Did Sneap make that much of a difference?
No way. I cannot even imagine how they could pull a show like this as a foursome. No way.
You need that rhythm guitar.
Yeah.
The back and forth leads, and that's what the Judas Priest is all about. The dual leads.
And Alan alluded to it that, whereas before it was more of KK and Glenn dueling leads, Richie does most of the heavy lifting here, and Andy is more of a rhythm player, though he does do some leads. But you just can't do it. Like there are two guitar parts in these songs. So, you talk about tapes and cheating. I don't care what you said. Richie was either going to have to play the songs differently and improvise if he was alone, or they were going to be kind of playing a rhythm track and they were going to be cheating a little bit. And I don't think anybody wanted that. Not to mention, it just wouldn't look right. Judas Priest as a quartet, at the end of the night taking the bow or whatever, it just doesn't look right. If you've seen Judas Priest any amount of times, you're going to have, Rob in the middle. You're going to have a guitarist stage left and a guitarist stage right. You're going to have Ian kind of back there in the pocket, not going to move very much, doing his thing, holding it down. That's it. So, if you're a longtime Judas Priest fan, you just expect them to look a certain way on stage. And it just wouldn't be right as a quartet.
Oh, we got a message to Stefan from this guy named Orlando Moshpit. Tell Stefan I want to do a duet with him on I Ain't No Nice Guy by Motorhead. He wants to do a duet with you, Orlando, a singing duet with him on the song I Ain't No Nice Guy by Motorhead.
But they're both nice guys.
You accept.
Challenge accepted. Challenge accepted.
After a few drinks at the Metal Voice Summer Barbecue, we'll get that on tape.
After quite a few drinks, if I can out-drunk Orlando,
Yes.
I'll sing.
I don't know about that. Orlando's like a tank. He's like a little tank.
I'm a big tank.
He's relentless. Orlando
He's
is relentless,
relentless.
I must admit.
Suddenly he's sitting with us or close by, and then suddenly he's right in front. Like,
No, and
right
all
in
of
the
a sudden he's next to me on the floor. Frank Potvane's heading to the show after work, he said. He wrote that.
Okay, all right. So buy your tickets now. The show is starting in an hour, right? You can Uber it.
London, 7:30, so about,
That's
a little over an
so
hour.
Queensryche's hitting the stage in an hour. So you guys, you got it.
Okay, guys, the experience for you, out of 10, what do you rate it?
Okay. Tell us.
9.5.
9.5 for Stefan.
Oof. I would definitely, me too. I would say definitely 9.5. It was a great show. It was just phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm a tough grader. I'll give it a 9, though. I mean, great opening act, great headline set. A few set list choices I do a little differently for Priest, but it was mostly good. But I'll say 9 on 10, just because a 10 on 10 is like the greatest shows I've ever seen. So this is like a 9 on. This is like one little notch below some of the best shows I've ever seen.
Well,
So I'll
9
say
out of
9
10.
on 10.
Let's take a 9 out of 10. That's good. Alan?
So thanks for tuning in.
What do you grade it? Come on, out of 10. You're the one who started this.
Because the bar is so high in all the previous pre-shows, I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10.
That's pretty good. 8 out of 10. That's 80%. That's more than I ever got in high school. I was lucky to get out of high school. That's all I'm going to say. All right. I think we're done. guys, thank you so much.
Until the next
You
show.
too.
All right, guys.
For
Next
all the
tour.
people who said hello.
Oh, Iron
at the
Maiden's
show.
next, isn't it? In October.
Well, Iron Maiden's not for a while. There'll be a few others between now and then.
All right, guys.
Oh,
Thanks.
that'll be quite
All
a few.
right, thank you.
Bye.